Hi again, Risa here, back with another episode of Ask Risa. This is my weekly video series where I discuss common wedding planning questions and problems that you might be having if you're trying to plan your own wedding. There are a bunch of other videos in this series. I publish them both to my YouTube channel, which is under Risa James Events, and also here on Instagram on my IGTV channel. So we are approaching the end of the year and it is engagement season. A lot of engagements happen around the holidays. So the next couple weeks, I'm going to spend some time talking about what exactly a wedding planner does and what a wedding coordinator does, because most people probably think in the abstract that they have an idea of what is involved, but if you actually had to sit down and explain it to somebody, you may not know exactly what's involved. And if you are engaged and heading into planning your wedding, you might not know whether you want to get help from a planner or a coordinator. So I'm going to lay out the differences and describe what each one does. This week, I will start by talking about what a wedding planner does. So, caveat before I start, people who are wedding planners and wedding coordinators generally work for themselves. They run a small business. And so everybody has their own style and their own way of doing things. There are a few different approaches that one can take toward wedding planning. So I will kind of go through a few of the basic approaches that can be taken, and then I'll get into more detail with how I take my approach to wedding planning. So some planners are also designers. Like, they will do wedding design for you. This is helpful if you literally have no idea what you want your wedding to look like, and maybe you're just not really interested in that sort of stuff. Like, you want to have a wedding, but you don't really care about the, how it looks, and you're willing to turn that over to somebody else. So wedding designers will actually put together a presentation, usually 2 to 3 full designs. And that's everything from the decor, like what the flowers are going to look like, the invitation suite, the color scheme, accent pieces. They can even put together full menus for you, tablescapes, so like the plates and the glassware and the flatware, and what all that's going to look like. And they'll do a couple of different full design mock-ups, and you're basically just choosing from a menu. You're like, yep, I want my wedding to look like that. And then they will go and make your wedding look like that. Some wedding professionals only do design. They're not actually planners, in that they're not going to put together your timeline. They're not going to be there, to bustle your dress for you on the wedding day. They are just there to design your wedding and come up with ideas and probably put together the vendor team that's going to make those ideas happen. But they're not going to get involved in the nitty-gritty. So you would need somebody else who can handle that. It's really important to know this going in. With all of these things that I'm going to talk about, it's important for you to understand what type of service the planner slash designer slash coordinator that you're talking to actually does. You need to know what their approach is, what they offer, what they provide, what they don't provide, because that makes a difference. You have to know what you're paying for. So some planners have like a team of vendors, and that's their go-to team, and they only work with those vendors. I've personally never known any planners who work like this, but I have heard them talk on podcasts that I listen to about their approach. So basically, they always work with the same caterer, they work with the same DJ, they work with the same lighting company, they work with the same rental company, they work with the same florist. You are buying a package when you hire that particular planner. And in that case, you're not making any choices about any of those companies or vendors or anything like that. And generally, you're contracting with the planner, you're paying the planner, but the planner is turning around and contracting with those other vendors and paying those other vendors directly with money that you give to her. In that situation, there's usually a markup on the services. So like if you were to hire the DJ directly, you would pay one price, but because you're getting it as part of this package deal and the planner is the conduit, you're going to pay more for it. This is more common with planners who do really high-end weddings, because I don't know why exactly. I just know that this is a more common approach when it comes to high-end weddings. And so if you're not one of those clients, you're probably not going to go that route with planning. But I just want you to be aware that that is an approach that some planners take. I do believe, again, I'm not sure because I don't personally know anyone who does this. I do believe that even in that situation, you still get to pick your own photographer because there's so many wildly different styles of photography. I can't imagine that any planner would say, no, you only can work with this photographer. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but I would find that weird. I find it weird as a planner. I would find it weird as a client. So just putting that out there. So I'm not that kind of planner, obviously. I actually like to have my clients involved in the design process. I want to make their wedding about them and their vision and their desires and their goals. I don't want to just impose something that I think looks pretty on them. I am always making suggestions, and I love to find inspiration photos on Pinterest and things like that, but I'm not ever going to present a completed package of here, this is what I want to make your wedding look like. That's just not how I roll. I prefer a much more collaborative process with the client. So a lot of times people hire me after they've already found a venue. Sometimes they hire me before they've found a venue. You can go either way. Venue searches are super time consuming and they involve a lot of research on one end, but also then like going to the venues and visiting them and doing tours, especially if you're visiting, more than a couple. So most planners, I believe, would help you with a venue search, but you probably pay a little bit extra for that service because it is so time consuming. So if you've already found your venue, it's not too late to still hire a planner because there's still tons of stuff that they can help you with. And then you don't have to pay them to help you with the venue search. So that's great. So once you have a venue and a planner, then your planner is going to help you put together the rest of your team. Your vendor team for your wedding day is super important because these are the professionals who are going to execute the vision that you have and make your day what you want it to be. So wedding planners are kind of like matchmakers. Like we've all worked with a bunch of vendors in the past. We have our favorites. We have people that we really like. And so we work with our clients, we get to know our clients a little bit, we know what their personalities are, we know what they're going for, and then we play matchmaker between them and the other vendors. So we introduce them to vendors that we think are going to fit their vibe and their personality and their budget, because let's be honest, some vendors are more expensive than others, but when we have access to the pricing of the vendors, then we know what is going to work for any particular client's budget. And then because we're just sort of making the connection, the clients are directly contracting with the vendor. So like you as the client are signing a contract with the photographer, with the DJ, with the rental company, with the florist, and you're paying them. The planner will keep track of that stuff for you. Like I keep a detailed list for each of my full planning clients of when payments are due. If there's an interim payment due or when a final headcount is due to a caterer or a venue and when the final payment is due and stuff like that. I keep track of that stuff for you, but you're responsible for making all those payments and you're the one who's actually signing the contract. I don't get involved in signing contracts on behalf of my clients. The only contract I sign is the one they sign with me. We also, as planners, handle all the communication that goes into dealing with vendors. And trust me, it's a lot. Just the initial reaching out to a vendor, checking to see if they're available on the date in question, setting up an initial meeting, and then, handling the contract back and forth. And then all of the logistics as it gets closer to the wedding with like, when are they coming to set up, and here's the address, and this is what time the ceremony starts, and this is what time we need you there, and this is what time everything ends, and all of that stuff. That's a lot of communication. So the planner handles that for all your vendors, and most weddings have between 8 and 12 vendors easily. I mean, without even trying too hard, you can end up with 8 separate wedding vendors. So it can be a lot. That communication adds up fast. And then the planner can also help you with your menu, obviously working together with your caterer and putting together all the rental items that you need if you are going to bring in your own glassware and plates and silverware and things like that, but also decor items, like if you wanted to rent vases or if you want to rent lounge furniture, if you want to put something special together that isn't already in the venue. the planner can help you manage that. And they will also help you with stationery products, like choosing your invitation suite based on your color palette and your design aesthetic, and then all the other paper products besides the invitation suite, because you've got menus potentially and programs and escort cards or a seating chart, table numbers, signs like for the guest book or a welcome sign or an unplugged ceremony sign. I have a whole blog post on signs you need for your wedding. So if you want a link to that, let me know and I'll send it to you. And when it comes to signage, you may also need a calligrapher. So, for your invitations, you might want to address your invitations with a very fancy script. And so the planner is going to have connections with calligraphers, and they'll be able to connect you with them to find the right person to do your signage, your invitations. They can even connect you with someone who can custom create an invitation suite for you. You don't have to get them online. There's tons of great options online, but there are also a lot of really great custom stationers out there who can make you a one-of-a-kind invitation suite for your wedding, and your planner can connect you with that person. Planners are also really helpful if you're not super detail oriented, because they should be. If they're any good at their job, they have to be detail oriented. So they will help keep track of your budget to make sure that you're not going over anywhere. And if you do go over somewhere, help you manage a different category so you can offset it and stay on budget altogether. Like I said earlier, I help my clients with payment reminders and deadlines and things like that. Some planners will even go dress shopping with you if you want them to. I've never done that. None of my clients have ever asked me to go dress shopping, but sure, I would do that if they wanted me to. I do go to all their vendor meetings. So like whenever we meet with the DJ to go over the timeline and choose special songs and things like that, I'm there for that. Meeting with florists to discuss what floral types we want and discuss inspiration and just talk about the overall decor, I'm there for that. I try to go to catering tastings, cake tastings. I mean, some of that's self-serving because who doesn't want to eat cake, right? But I also just like to be there to like help facilitate the discussion, especially because usually I'm the one who has connected the client with the vendor, and so I like to be there as the middleman, so to speak. Sometimes my clients come prepared with like, oh, I really want to go with this caterer or whatever, and that's totally fine. Just know that your planner can set you up with vendors if you don't already have them, and it's unlikely that you're going to have a particular vendor that you want for every category. So that's something to keep in mind. I also do things with like basically what I call guest logistics. So like setting up hotel room blocks for people who are coming in from out of town, or if you want to set up shuttle transportation to get guests from the hotel to the wedding and then back to the hotel at the end of the night. I help my full service clients with things like that. I'm also, when it gets a little closer and we know who's coming, that's when we start working on the seating chart. And the floor plan we can do ahead of time for the most part. We don't exactly know how many tables we need until we know how many people are coming. But the seating chart is the real bear. Like, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Seating charts suck. They're like the worst part of wedding planning because they're so difficult to figure out who should be seated where. And okay, Uncle Bob can't sit next to Cousin Sue because they had that falling out 10 years ago and they refused to speak to each other. And this person is super annoying and she's not going to get along with anybody. So I don't know what table we're going to put her at. And these guys are divorced, so we got to make sure they're on different sides of the room. Like it's a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not fun, but it is super helpful to have a seating chart because it's just really helpful for your guests to have an assigned seat or at least an assigned table and to know where to go. So you gotta just like take one for the team, do the seating chart. But for my full service clients, I'm there to help you. And like I have programs that I use that we can like, move people into little tables on graphics and things like that. I have all kinds of electronic assistants to help us with the seating chart. But you still have to decide who's going to sit where, because I cannot help you with that because I don't know the interpersonal dynamics of your friends and family. So it's still going to suck for you, but it's just something you have to deal with. But you will have help. And, sometimes my clients and I like to drink wine while we work on the seating chart because it's that kind of project. And I also I'm just kind of like a wedding concierge for my full service clients throughout the process. Like whatever they need, advice, they have a question about something, they need guidance on something, they want to have something particular for the wedding, but they can't figure out what or where to get it. I help them with that. So just having somebody who is on your side and available for you and is a professional. So like, sure, your mom is probably helping you plan your wedding, but she's not a wedding professional, unless she is. I mean, she might be, but chances are she's not a wedding professional. So she just doesn't have the kind of background that a professional planner does have. And so that's what you're paying for when you hire a planner. I mean, yeah, you're paying for the actual services that I provide or that another planner provides, but you're also paying us for our expertise, for our knowledge, for our years of experience that we have accumulated working with other people. We bring all of that education, experience, and knowledge to your wedding. So, literally every wedding that we as wedding professionals do is better than the one before because we learn something from every single wedding. I've been doing this for almost 5 years, and I can tell you, I still learn something from every wedding, and I know that other professionals do too. So, you're getting the benefit of our experience when you hire a professional. And also, if problems arise, you have a professional there to help you try to resolve them, and you're not stuck trying to do it on your own. So as the wedding day gets closer, there is a bunch of other stuff that the planner does for you, but that's where we start to overlap with a wedding coordinator, because a wedding coordinator hasn't been with you for that whole planning process. They haven't been helping you hire your vendors. They haven't been meeting with you periodically. They haven't been intimately involved in the overall design and aesthetic of your wedding. They come in much closer to the wedding date. And so this is the point where the overlap between wedding planner and wedding coordinator begins. And this video has already been super long. So I'm going to talk next week about what a wedding coordinator does, and then these two pieces will be sort of companion pieces to each other. But if you have any questions about anything I said today, feel free to either comment or send me a DM or shoot me an email, and then I will be back next week to talk about what a wedding coordinator does. All right, bye for now.